Welcome to the Secret Keepers Podcast with your host, Corrine Zootlegger. Join us as we uncover the hidden thoughts, stories, and moments that help bring light to the healing power of truth and examine how silence can affect us mentally, physically, and spiritually. We'll also share profound stories, interviews, and transformative narratives to help release ourselves from the hidden and step into healing towards inner peace, joy, and fulfillment. Now, here's your healing strategist and host, Corrine.
All right. Welcome to the Secret Keepers Podcast. And today, my guest is Morgan Blackman, and I'm going to have her tell you a little bit about herself.
All right. Yeah, so I am what I call a holistic wealth coach. So, in a fun way, I like to help women match their bank account with their vision boards, or otherwise build wealth. I help do this through a more trauma-informed approach. So, think money mindset, energetics, and also blending that with practical financial strategies, right? So, think everything that you didn't learn in school and more. I think a lot of people, when it comes to wealth, they think of investing and they should think of investing and finding ways to have your money work for you. So that's essentially kind of what I do in a nutshell. Blending finance and wellness, though, which is why I add the holistic in front of the wealth.
Very, very cool. And what a unique job. I mean, I think um, I'm really curious about the bringing the trauma aspect into it. So, in your experience, how did that kind of come up with wealth?
Right. Yeah. So trauma, I guess maybe it might be better to understand what trauma is
Mhm.
itself. So for me, trauma would be deep negative experiences that continue to live in the body and impact how we show up on a everyday basis. A lot of it can be subconscious. So, 95% of our mind is really running on autopilot. And some of it, not all of it, can be running off of, these negative experiences that we replayed. And so, what our body is doing when we think of emotions such as fear and anxiety is actually trying to protect us from recreating some of those traumatic events. But sometimes it does it when it's not necessary, right? So,
Sure.
trauma can be helpful because I see it as information. But a lot of the times we don't see it that way. And so my job is to get people to separate, those events
Mhm.
and sort of transmute it into something that can be more empowering and a belief set that can actually um, unlock, whatever goal or dream desire that you're trying to work towards. And
Sure.
not kind of having trauma be this limiting thing that holds you back and keeps you stuck in your life, right? So,
So in
yeah,
in your personal experience, so here at the Secret Keepers, we talk
right.
about secrets, things that need to be brought to light. Um, how does that play into like why you do what you do or
Right.
how you serve your clients?
Yeah. I think for me personally, I've gone through many money eras, or money mindset eras, but I grew up in a middle income family.
Mhm.
For me, I saw money as a source of conflict because my parents fought over it a lot.
Sure.
I have a parent that I believe suffers from a mental illness that kind of makes it hard to manage money in a sustainable and a healthy way. And so that put a lot of stress on my mother, which eventually put a lot of stress on the kids. And so um, I think a part of me growing up knew like I didn't want to recreate that for myself.
Sure.
The issue was that I didn't really know how, right? Because most of us aren't really taught what healthy financial management should look like, or overall just like living a healthy life, right? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So my parents, they're immigrant parents. They weren't really taught how to properly budget and save and invest. Or maybe one parent did, but the other parent had a bit more control over things and negatively influence how they were able to show up financially for the family. And so, yeah, it was a little confusing. There's one part of me that got some of the things that I wanted under my Christmas tree. There was, in a sense, not really a struggle. Um, on the outside of it, seeing them fight was something I couldn't really piece together. I'm getting what I want, but then it's creating conflict.
Right.
And that also might speak into my attachment style and, becoming someone who's a little anxiously attached, right? There's not really much stability. So I think, going into university eventually, I think for a lot of young adults, that's the first time where they kind of have to take on financial responsibility, right, for themselves. And so
Sure.
that's when like things, I guess my mindset and ability to save was tested. And I wasn't really great at it. I didn't save until actually I had a friend talk to me about investing in university. She was just dating this guy, and so kind of shows you that who you have in your circle is also really important too. And um he was talking to her about investing and going to the bank and putting your money in this vehicle that can appreciate over time. And I was so lit up by that idea. Seeing someone that looked like me, she was a Black woman, and you know um I feel like we relatively had a similar upbringing. We're going to the same school. It's like if she can do it, I can do it too. It shouldn't be that hard, right? And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so that is where my money story shifted. I wouldn't say like I had any like severe traumatic experiences with money itself. But I think I wouldn't have been able to even take the right steps and actions to even start investing if I didn't do some of that inner work in regards to some of the other things that I was struggling with in my life. And so this is kind of where in my work I talk about, wealth not just being what's in your bank account, but like how you
Mhm.
feel about yourself, right? And
Right.
the other areas of your life. And so I was fortunate up until that point in university. That was really a time where I did a lot of rediscovering myself, finally having the autonomy. I'm out of my parents' house. I get to make the rules. I get to choose what I want to do, who I get to socialize with, what I do with my money. I was in a very toxic situationship, and I decided to end that. And in
Okay.
ending that, I decided that I was going to, yeah, like anything that I wanted to do in life, I wasn't going to let someone else get in the way, and that I believe that I'm worthy. I'm worthy of having what I want, and this person helped me to realize that, through maybe treating me in a negative way. And so the traumas that I experienced from that relationship helped me to want to become better. And so working on my mindset, working on my body, like my diet, everyday movement, these rituals, these
Sure.
routines, trusting spirit more, developing my own personal relationship with God outside of Christianity, in which I had grown up with. All of that kind of accumulated up until that point. And
Sure.
I was like, yeah, I'm making strides in all these other areas. My health, why not my finances? And
Yeah.
if this is what wealthy people do, right? Rich people invest, then I'm going to do it. And if my friend is doing it, I can do it too. So that's kind of what set everything off.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, kind of an overview of it is um, that you took, you had certain examples that were modeled for you growing up, and you took that conflict that you were exposed to on a regular basis and recognized as you got, beginning in your adult life
Right,
that, maybe some of these things weren't very healthy. Um,
right,
and then you were fortunate that you had role models that you were able to look to see that this is something different, right? So we
right,
step outside of our circle and we get to take another look at geez, I would like something different, and look, they're doing something different.
Right.
I heard you say, because you talked about your worth, you talked about you make
Right.
decisions, right? And the decision is the key piece of it, right? We move our feet, we make a decision. But you talked about the
Mhm.
energetics of it, and that is often overlooked, right? Because how I feel about me
Right.
and the frequency that I'm emitting really plays into everything in our life. And so many people don't necessarily understand energetics. They're not, and maybe not, they understand spirituality at a whole different level. Um,
Right.
and I would love for you to just expand on that, because I know you do
Mhm.
get into the energetics in it in your
Right.
holistic wealth. So talk to the audience
Yeah,
more
like
about what does that look like? If I've never, I'm like, I don't
mhm.
know, I don't know what energetics is. What's the difference between religion and spirituality? And what's this woman
Right.
talking about?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, you can look at energetics as feeling. I like to attach it to a feeling. I think it's the easiest way or place to start. So, when you meet someone, sometimes you have this good energy that you feel off of them.
Sure.
And maybe they feel the same way about you, right? That is to me energy, vibration.
Mhm.
It's nothing that you can see, you can't maybe touch it, but you have to feel it with the body. So you really have to be present.
Sure.
And so when it comes to my journey and dealing with finances, or being in that specific moment where everything kind of switched for me, like I said, I was doing that work to find ways where I can step into my power and know that I am capable of feeling, you know, lovable and worthy of being abundant. And I feel like when I left that situationship, that was the moment where I was like, I deserve to be treated much better.
Sure.
And in order to do that, I need to show myself that I do deserve much better, right? And how can I show myself that love and compassion and care? And when I'm able to do that, I feel like that which is something to now want to take action, right? To know that no, I am capable and I am worthy of, and do small things every day. It wasn't an overnight thing, right? It's like
Sure.
small ways that you say yes to yourself, that you believe in yourself and what's possible. And as you achieve these small wins over time, you keep up this level of consistency that keeps this vibration going, right? And it's it's very hard to want to go back, right? Like when you learn to love yourself for everything that you are and know what you're capable of, I think that is the motivation that keeps me going. And there are moments where sometimes you shift out of that energy and maybe you feel sad, you feel depressed, or you don't feel good about yourself. But that's something we can kind of eventually talk about, leaning onto certain tools that can help you bring yourself back to center.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of my mentors defines wealthy as being happy, healthy, and financially abundant, right? So
Mm,
when we have those three things, right, then we're wealthy. And wealth, some people equate to being rich when you say the word
that's right.
wealth. And it doesn't necessarily mean rich in the connotation that we can hear that can often be deemed negative, which it's not, but it can be seen that way. And so when we're looking at loving yourself, it sounds like, geez, that's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
I get to love myself. I can say, from a woman to another woman,
Hmm.
that's often not that easy, right? We're in a society where we're groomed to compare The
Yeah.
social media presence alone, comparing, always looking and seeking outside of ourselves for
Ourselves for
that
validation.
validation.
Yep.
Like, am I pretty enough? Am I skinny enough? Am I rich
Right.
enough? Am I this enough? Am I that enough? And it can become very overwhelming. And but it comes back to really going within. And you talked a little bit about tapping into the spiritual component of it is,
Mhm.
it's going within and looking and seeking the answers from myself, right? So you
Right.
think of a situationship that you were in with someone,
Exactly.
and that that person can leave you feeling a certain way
Hmm.
when we're not strong in self, right?
Right.
If I'm strong in self, I'm not going to, first of all, I wouldn't energetically attract somebody to me that would treat me like that if I'm strong
Yeah.
in self, right? Because it
Exactly.
would be a mismatch. Um,
Right.
and I know, like for myself, in what I do and
Hmm.
helping people love themselves,
Hmm.
I get what you're talking about. So walk me through and help the audience understand, like if somebody was to come to you, what kind of journey
Hmm.
would you take them on, in order
Right.
to help them? Because when we comparison isn't bad, right? It's self to self for progress, self to
Right.
up for what's possible out there. So what would it look like to work with you and have somebody take us on a
Right.
journey? What does that look like?
Yeah. Um, I definitely start with mindset. Mindset, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, if you do not believe in that future version of yourself, then it's going to be very hard to carry the motivation to even get there. So, that's why starting with that inner work, doing some of, working on limiting beliefs, some of those energetics, incorporating some strategies and tools where you can start to truly believe in yourself and rewrite that story that you have in your head about yourself, right? So, we usually start with mindset and then I would move and shift into the financial literacy piece. So I kind of have three pillars in my work. So
Sure.
I call it wealth wellness and move into wealth strategy. So the strategy piece now is the very nitty gritty practical stuff. So now that we've worked on your why, why you want to make X amount of money, why money is important to you, believing now that you can get there, how do you actually save? How do you actually pay off debt? How do you actually start investing, right? So that's when we start to get into the practical steps.
Okay.
And then we would end off with wealth creation, and that's sort of the third pillar of my work. And it depends, like if you're, 9 to 5 working woman, we'll look at career. Maybe you're not in a job that fulfills you or makes you happy, or is in alignment with like your overall North Star and purpose. So, it's not just about money, as we said, because you can be, working a 6-figure job, but you're always burnt out. You have no time for family and friends. So maybe there is a role or position out there for you where you can find more of that balance, right? Without having to sacrifice every aspect of your being just for money, right? I feel like
Right.
money, it's a give and take, but it shouldn't be taking everything from you. So, we explore that, other ways to make money. So wealth creation, right? In the sense of how can we create more abundance? Because I feel like a lot of people are sort of just waiting for money to come their way. And it's like, okay, I'm working this job. I kind of just wait every 2 weeks to get paid. But no, how can we get creative and find ways to bring in extra income, right? Whether that maybe that's asking for a raise or maybe it's starting a, I don't like to use the word side hustle, but a part-time business.
Sure.
Some people, they want to go full out into a business. So then for those types of clients, we're working obviously on ways to increase their income within their business, passive income strategies, maybe juggling multiple types of businesses, scaling, and yeah, obviously, um, catering to that individual and where they're at. So that's sort of the three
No,
pillar kind of journey that I take them on. It's much more finalized now than it was 4 years ago.
yeah, no, that's awesome. And in my experience with it, money is simply a byproduct. Money is simply an
Cool.
energetic
Yeah.
exchange for,
Yeah.
so for whatever your service is, so if I go to work every day, how I
Right.
show up at my job matters. So if I go to work and I'm like, oh, I hate my job, and I go there and I'm kind of half-ass it while I'm there, um, that is going to reflect into energetically what I'm attracting into me, because we
Exactly.
really need to show up as our best self in everything that we do in order to energetically attract more to us. Um,
Yeah.
so who you're being, is it really matters. And then you
Yeah.
said something else is, you're not sitting on a meditation cushion and like putting your palms up and then like gold coins are falling down. Sometimes
Raining
I
down,
think
right?
you just
I wish it was
rain
that
from
easy.
heaven, right? Because I think sometimes people think that, right? Oh, the law of attraction, and all I have to do is think
Right.
about things I want and
Be
think
positive.
positively and say
Yep.
the things, and then and then the coins are going to fall. And
No.
no, no. We do
Right.
get to take the action, and that's the key word you said, right?
Yes.
We get to move. It doesn't have to be moon bound leaps that we are catapulting ourselves through the air, but we
Exactly.
take an action forward. There has to be a step
Hmm.
into, because that shows faith. If I have the
Right.
faith, in our creator, whatever term
Yeah.
you choose to use, if I have faith, this step I'm going to take is going to give me information, right? And so the step I
Exactly.
might,
Yeah.
it might be good information. What's all good information? It might be
So
information
exactly.
that we find, right, is, it might have a positive result, or it might have a result that says we might need to improve this. But you
Right.
have to take an action, take that step to get a result. And once we get a result, then we can
Yeah.
pivot, shift, whatever. Like you were saying, like 4 years ago, your business didn't
Hmm.
look like it does now. And now
Right.
you've been doing things and tweaking and adding, um
Exactly.
and it's so awesome because this is where wealth is built, right? It's built in the pivot, is what I think. It's like,
Yeah.
if I just keep moving my feet forward and I keep trusting and I have that faith, then
Right. Yeah.
I get to see the
And
result.
to add to that, actually, yeah, like, I mean, talking about the journey, like, it's not linear. It's not supposed to be linear, right? And
What? Oh,
wealth
didn't you taught that at
is,
school though? Like your career planning, and you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and then you're gonna go here, and it's
yeah,
like,
it's
I
all
don't,
mapped out for you,
I do not know
supposedly.
a single soul, even my
Right.
really I dotting, T crossing friends had, the journey that had peaks and valleys. So it is not linear.
Not at all. Yeah. And then also the idea that wealth is different to many people, right?
Yeah,
Like what
exactly.
people think is wealth could be, having a yacht that you sail in the summers and this beautiful big mansion. And for some people, it's maybe living off grid, right? That seems to be like a new trend with like the younger generation, living off grid, buying land, having chickens running around, and
Yeah.
being able to harvest your own crops and live off the earth. So wealth looks so different. And I think a lot of us are copying society's template of what it's supposed to look like, right? Back to your point of
Yeah.
comparing and
But we're
the
not happy
highlight.
then, right? When you're
No,
talking about like the fulfillment piece of it, when I'm trying to live someone else's life, that leaves me unfulfilled. When I have the mask on, when I start to pretend that, um, you know, what my version looks like, and
right.
it could be, like you said, maybe I just want to have a little piece of land and grow all my things
Hmm.
organically, and
Yeah.
that's great. Do you? That's the
You,
most, the
yeah.
biggest piece of it,
Yeah.
right? Or what I've really learned throughout this journey of my own is that as long as what I want to do isn't
Mm-hmm.
harming anybody else, it's not harming
Right.
the earth, it's not harming the animals. If I'm not
Exactly.
in that space of greed, right, where I'm doing something that's going to hurt somebody else, um,
Right.
it's, it's fair game.
It's
And
fair game. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, trying to minimize harm as much as possible. When I
Mhm.
talk about building wealth sustainably, that is part of that framework, right? Like we can make all the money in the world, but how are we doing that in a way that positively is still impacting other people, groups, communities, the planet, right? And then also ourselves. So talk about burnout. Like also we can hurt ourselves and harm ourselves in the process of chasing wealth or riches. And so much great examples of, celebrities that have lots of money and claim that they're still not even happy. So
Right.
we do understand that like that's not the exact solution. It's not, oh, I'm going to become rich and all my problems will go away, right? If you're not great at
Mhm.
communicating and building relationships, no matter how much money you have, you're still going to feel alone and unloved. And those are things that money can't buy. So,
Exactly. We were born to connect. Our skin was made to be touched. We're not meant to live in isolation. I just a couple of weeks ago, I woke up in the middle of the night with what I would call a download, right? And it was
yes.
kind of a dreamlike state. And it was my dad, and my dad's been deceased now lots and lots of years. And so we're driving, we're like in a station wagon, and he's talking to me, and he says, for me to tell my husband and
Mhm.
to um to not miss out on what's right in front of him, chasing the next best thing. And that message, or I just get tingles just saying it out loud, but it was so loudly received. Like I was up and I was like, okay, and I'm like typing in my phone
Right.
here. And then I,
Mm.
woke up in the morning and shared it with him. And I said, we, when you have a beautiful life, you could miss it
Mm.
by chasing what society puts out there that you should have to make you happy. And you get to decide that. You make the decision on what it is that's going to make you happy. And happy, make you happy, right? I'm going to put that in air quotes, make you happy, right?
Happy.
Because happy is a decision you make, right? It's a choice
Yes.
you
The
make because
choice. Yes.
it's a
Yeah.
feeling, but I can decide. I can wake up in the morning and decide, oh, it's going to be a crappy day. Or
Mm.
I can wake up and decide it's going to be a great day because whatever I wake up and tell myself is exactly
Right.
my brain, the reticular activating system, will look for all day.
Well, the core, exactly. Yep.
So I
Yeah.
do decide. You have so much more power within you
And
than
we
we
think,
give ourselves credit for, than we've been led to believe.
yeah.
And you are here to help empower women specifically to
Right.
own their wealth, right? So to own their financial wealth, to in own
Hmm.
their internal wealth.
Yeah.
And I love your journey, like like you
Thank you. Yeah.
taking the mindset and doing the inner work, and then
Yeah.
taking it, moving it into the financial literacy, because you're right. Unless you took the course, you're not necessarily um, going to understand all the ins and out of financial
Right.
aspects of things. And then you talk about
Exactly.
creation, which um, is amazing. So I really like the way you have laid out.
You. The
Um,
journey laid out.
yeah, your
Yeah.
journey. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's a big deal. So, um, if you were to take everything that you've learned along
Hmm.
the way, Morgan, and you were to pick out a golden nugget,
Mm.
what would your golden nugget be that you wanted to share with the audience? What do you want them to know? and come away with that you're like, yeah, this is the thing?
Ooh, okay. I would have to say it's gonna sound a little, maybe this isn't what people want to hear, but it's something I'm really excited about talking about lately. And it's the idea that we're not financially free until we're all financially free, in the sense that we focus so much on individual wealth, which is just as important because you can't pour into others if, you know, if you're the empty cup, right?
Sure.
So yes, we need to learn how to embody abundance for ourselves, internally and externally. But
Mhm.
what happens when we do that? What happens when we do get to a place where we're full? How do you pour back into others? And I think we live in a world right now where we can see there's so much economic inequality, and there are people who are extremely full externally and aren't really sure how to pour back into those who might not have the capacity to do that for themselves, right? And so, there are small ways to do that. You can donate to charity. And why I say this is even if it's $5, I think
Mhm.
that act of paying it forward and giving to someone shows you, or it embodies the energy of abundance, because you can't give if you don't think you have anything to give, right? So I would say for me, finding ways in my everyday to give to people, right? And not sort of just waiting on who's going to give to me, and waiting to take from the world, but how can I give to the world as well too? And trusting that in giving, because of that universal law of give and take, in giving you will also receive.
Mhm.
And so often I understand we get caught up in our circumstances. There are people who definitely are in survival mode and are really just trying to make ends meet on a daily basis, right? But even small things like 5 minutes of meditation, or moving your body in a way that feels good, or hanging out with friends, like this weekend in Toronto, is it's called Caravana. It's a Caribbean carnival. And I love this weekend because like everybody's just outside. We're enjoying our roots, our heritage. Everyone's dancing.
Right.
There's music, there's food, there's laughter. The people who are even setting up the parties for me to attend, like that is someone, giving back,
Sure.
right? It may not
Sure.
seem like, in the monetary sense they're giving, but you're giving joy back to people, right? So think about
Sure.
that in your everyday. How are you giving joy to others, financially, spiritually, mentally, socially,
Emotionally.
whatever,
Yeah. Yeah. All the ways,
Um,
right? I mean, and
yeah,
it's such a valid point. Like, legacy is, it's a big piece of
very
honestly
much
why we're
so.
here. We're here
Yeah,
in being we're all interconnected. So if I have an abundant mindset, and that's the energy that I give to other people when I have that
yeah,
abundant mindset and they see me giving, um, that ripples out. So we have a
that ripples
choice, right?
out. Yeah,
And what we want to create and have ripple out. But the legacy is, I have a mentor too that will say, like, the world needs you rich, in like
mm,
rich in not just in monetary, but needs us rich. It needs us whole and healthy and in a good mindset
exactly.
and in that ability to say, how can I contribute in a positive way to
Right.
my, first of all, my home, right? My
Yeah,
community, the world around me, the world at large, what can I
yeah.
do to make a difference? And tithing doesn't
A
have to
difference.
look
Yeah,
like a monetary tithe. I can tithe my time,
exactly.
talent. And so there are things we can do. And that's what I'm hearing you say. And that's
Yes.
an amazing
Yes.
golden nugget to leave everybody with. So, Morgan, if the audience wants to connect with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on my YouTube channel. That's like my main way that I love to show up, through long form video. So yeah, it's just at my name, Morgan Blackman. And my website is morganblackman.com. So those are the two places. And if you are into reading and newsletters, I have a Substack community called the Wealth Letters. You could probably search my name too to find that, or at the Wealth Letters.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'll have all of that in the show notes. And thank you so much today for being with us, Morgan, and sharing
Having-
your wealth knowledge. I sure appreciate you. And thank you for being on the Secret Keepers.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Hope this was helpful.
It was very helpful.
Thank you for joining the Secret Keepers Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, please give us a like and follow so we can invite you back. And if you just want more, visit CorrineZuleger.com. Remember, you're not alone.
At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.